Hello and welcome to this webinar on Brexit, the implications for pharmaceutical trade between the EU and Great Britain and the opposite way around between Great Britain and the EU. This is still an evolving situation, so obviously what I'm about to say is, I believe, correct as of today, the 17th of March, but it may well change in the future. And we're likely to see change continuing for months, possibly even years into the future. So it is something that you're going to need to keep up to date with. I'd like to start by introducing myself. I am a Vice President at NSF Pharmaceutical Services in Europe, based in the UK. I describe myself these days as a former analytical chemist. I've been a qualified person since 1985, and I've had a long career, spent over 30 years with Eli Lilly, first mainly in the UK, but latterly in a global corporate role. And through that, I got involved with pharmaceutical legislation. I was on the Lilly representative on the FPA manufacturing and GMP ad hoc group. And through that, I got involved with ICH and was the European industry topic leader on Q9. And one of my roles when I was with Lilly was to keep them appraised of changes to pharmaceutical legislation and how they were likely to impact us as a company. And I've continued that role as when I joined NSF 16 years ago now in 2005. So I'm trying to keep everybody up to date with what's happening and how things are changing, because one of the things that's true is everything is constantly in flux and the regulations and guidance are constantly changing, and events like Brexit only accelerate that change and add even more complexity. I'm going to start by looking at the impact of Brexit on medicines that are exported from the UK to the EU. So they will be imports into the European Union. One of the complexities to deal with Brexit is the fact that the Northern Ireland Protocol. This means effectively that as far as medicines are concerned, at least, Northern Ireland remains within the EU. So everything that applied before we left, before Brexit, continues to apply in Northern Ireland. Centrally authorised marketing authorisations remain valid in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland remains in the European Medicines Verification Organisation. So any product dispensed in Northern Ireland has to be decommissioned in the European Medicines Verification System, for instance. What this means is many of the other provisions around Brexit actually only refer to what's called Great Britain, which is Scotland, Wales and England, and do not apply in Northern Ireland. So that's one complexity. I will deal with that in more detail in the UK section. So it's always been the case that centrally authorised products, EU marketing authorisations must be held by a legal entity in the EU. So all centrally authorised products have to be reassigned. And at the moment, it's only the ones held by legal entities in Great Britain to a new legal entity in the EU. Also, national marketing authorisations, if held by a UK or Great Britain legal entity, have had to be transferred to the EU legal entity. The reassignment of the other national marketing authorisations that were held by UK legal entities took a little longer, and I've not seen any figures to say whether they have actually all been completed. Obviously, there are a lot more national authorisation. It was estimated there were approximately 3,000 national marketing authorisations held by UK legal entities that were going to have to be transferred into other legal entities. And you're going to need, where the UK was the reference member state, you're going to need to have another, usually one of the concerned member states in the EU, take over as the reference member state. But again, I think by and large, the delays in the UK actually leaving of nearly 2 years has permitted that to go ahead. Retesting and QP certification is the big one that has taxed a lot of companies. The EU has been quite adamant that the UK has made itself a third country, and all imports from a third country without an MRA, and we don't have an MRA with the EU, have to be retested and re-QP certified on importation. So that means all product coming from Great Britain needs to be retested on importation. If the product was actually manufactured in Ireland, in theory, it can still move in, but there's not a huge amount of manufacture in Ireland, Northern Ireland, sorry. And the Northern Irish situation is still fluid, shall we say, and they've given themselves another year to figure out exactly what is going to happen in Northern Ireland with respect to medicinal products. So for the vast majority of products coming from Great Britain into the EU, they will require retesting on importation and will require QP certification by a QP named on an EU manufacturing import authorization. So this requirement for retesting and QP certification means that products exported from the UK to the EU, whereas previously it would be acceptable to send it to a warehouse, a wholesale dealer's wholesale distribution authorization holder in Europe. Now the product going into the EU would require to go to somewhere holding a manufacturing import authorization so that it can be tested and QP certified when it's moved into the EU. This means a lot of companies have had to reorganize their supply chain. So rather than, certainly if a product was produced outside of the EU, for instance in places like India, it makes no sense now to import it into the UK first if it's destined for the European market, because it would then need retesting again on importation into the EU. So many companies have reorganized their supply chain so that they go into the EU first rather than the UK. There was a potential problem with multi-country packs. Obviously, the bulk of the English speakers within the European Union were contained within the UK. But there are smaller markets that also take English language packs, the largest of which would be the Republic of Ireland, but the population was roughly 10% of that of the UK. And other places like Malta and Cyprus had very much even smaller populations. And so the EU did relent and say that actually multi-market English language packs would be possible, providing the product information was exactly the same between the UK and the EU 27. The member state has allowed the additional labelling information in the blue box, and product labelling and packaging leaflet are fully in line with the summary of product characteristics as authorised in the EU. So those multi-country English language packs were permitted. However, this creates a problem with the safety features. The UK, coming out of the EU, would be no longer part of the European Medicines Verification System from the end of 2020. They had been part of the system from when it was turned on in February 2019, but no GB data would be loaded from the 1st of January. But Northern Ireland would continue to load data. So from 2021, GB data has to be uploaded by the EU importer to obviously and checked by the QP who are certifying those packs. That's fine until you look at the multi-country packs. Product exported from the EU to GB in theory should be decommissioned on export. That's what the requirements say. Once product moves out of the EU, it is counted as being exported and decommissioned as being exported. So if this product is then exported from Great Britain to one of these English language speaking countries, it's a multi-country pack, they in theory would need to add a new unique identifier on import to Ireland, Cyprus or Malta. But unfortunately, none of the current importers have the manufacturing import authorization to add new unique identifiers. So compliance is impossible. So what the Commission has allowed is product exported from EU to GB for subsequent export to Northern Ireland, Ireland, Cyprus or Malta does not have to have the unique identifier decommissioned on export, providing the EU exporter has verified the unique identifier against the European repository or the national repository, and that the wholesale distributor importing the product into Northern Ireland, Ireland, Cyprus or Malta verifies it on when it gets to that country. So again, how long this workaround will be permitted, I'm not sure. I think they're trying to encourage some importers in those smaller countries to get the capability to add unique identifiers, which means they would need a manufacturing import authorization. So that's just one of the little wrinkles around Brexit, of product flowing between the EU and Great Britain and then back out again. Parallel trade is no longer permitted. So parallel trade of medicines sourced in Great Britain is no longer possible in the EU. The Annex 19 of the EU GMP guide says reference and retained samples must be held and stored within the European Economic Area, unless there's an MRA, and we don't have an MRA. So again, those importers, they're going to have to retest the product on importation from Great Britain. It's going to have to be QP certified, and you're going to have to retain the reference and retained samples within the EU, and presumably that will be at the MIA holder's site where the product is first imported. Active pharmaceutical ingredients imported to the EU from Great Britain will require the UK MHRA to issue written confirmations of compliance with EU GMP, as the UK does not currently appear on the Commission whitelist for API importers. And the MHRA has set up a system for that. You can go onto the MHRA website and there is a list of people who've already got the written confirmation, so they can be downloaded from that site. And it's updated on a monthly basis as new companies get given the written confirmation. So that system is set up and hopefully is working. I'm now going to look at the impact of Brexit on medicines that are exported from the European Union to the UK. And in fact, really what should be borne in mind is it really is exported to Great Britain, because the imports into Northern Ireland are unaffected because of the Northern Ireland Protocol and the fact that Northern Ireland effectively remains in the EU. So what we're really talking about is product exported from the European Union to Great Britain. The EU-UK trade deal was eventually agreed at the 11th hour on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve 2020. And if you're interested, it's thousands of pages long, but Annex TBT2 contains the provisions for medicinal products and applies to the following human and veterinary medicinal products: marketed medicinal products, including biologics, immunologics for human and veterinary use, ATMPs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, and investigational medicinal products. So it covers most products. This highlights what the UK in June 2020 published what they would like in their comprehensive free trade agreement. So this formed the negotiating document that the UK went into the trade negotiations with for medicines. And you can see it's quite a long list of things there. We'll have a look in a minute and see what they actually achieved. The trade agreement, in fact, includes very little. To say it was thin for medicines would be an understatement. The only real agreement was mutual recognition of GMP inspections, which means the EU and the UK will accept GMP inspections performed by each other and not have to routinely inspect each other. So the MHRA won't be going to Europe and the Europeans routinely won't be coming here. There are provisions, as always, for cause inspections, and if the GMPs in either jurisdictions change radically, it could be revisited. But note, this is not a mutual recognition agreement. It does not include retesting. So retesting on import from Great Britain to the EU is still required, and as we'll see in a minute, will be required on product coming into Great Britain from the EU from the 1st of January 2023, unless we do agree an MRA before then. There was some general provisions in there, sort of motherhood and apple pie things on regulatory cooperations. The parties shall endeavour to consult one another as permitted by their respective law on the proposals to introduce significant changes to technical regulations or inspection procedures, and a working group on medicinal products is to be set up to monitor and review implementation and ensuring the proper functioning of this medicinal products annex. So yes, I'm sure left to their own devices, the MHRA and the EMA would agree a pretty comprehensive working arrangement of sharing information and working together. I suspect they will not be allowed to by their political masters. So what we've got is a very, very thin agreement. And the trade agreement does not include herbal products, and it does not include medical devices at all. So if we look back at what the UK hoped to agree, all we got was the first two, really: the mutual recognition of certificates of GMP compliance and the right to conduct GMP inspections in certain circumstances. None of the other things were achieved. So the UK got a very small fraction of what they went into the trade negotiations asking for. And so that has significant consequences, as I will now go through. What's happened is we've now, from the 1st of January 2021, we've entered what the MHRA are calling the post-transition standstill period. So there are different provisions for Northern Ireland, and I'll come on to that in a minute. But essentially, the statutory instruments we've got take us out, and as far as possible, we carry on as we were before, and with certain notable exceptions. And there are various things that have to happen over the next 2 years. So as I said, we will continue to follow for now, for at least 2 years, all of the relevant guidance. My personal view is I strongly suspect that in the fullness of time, because PIC's guidance and the EU guidance look to be diverging, particularly over ATMPs, that the UK will follow PIC's in the future rather than the EU, where they differ. But the differences are actually quite small. So for now, the biggest one is the potential differences around Part 4, that we won't recognise Part 4 will follow the PIC's, new PIC's Annex 2A. But as the PIC's Annex is not yet approved, that's a moot point at the moment. And probably the timing is about right. We'd probably find the PIC's Annex gets final approval and implementation around late 2022 or early 2023. Obviously, the MHRA has been set up as a standalone agency. They will do marketing authorization and clinical trial authorization evaluations. They will conduct GXP inspections. They will be responsible for pharmacovigilance and orphan drugs in the UK. Obviously, the MHRA has been a very active agency around the world. It's one of the largest and the most respected agencies around the world, and they want to continue and perhaps even enhance their global influence. I fully expect the MHRA to seek to join ICH in their own right. They certainly have participated in ICH quite extensively over the years as members of the EU delegation. So I fully expect them to participate in ICH. And they've always been very active members of PICS and EMEA and other international organizations. So again, I expect the MHRA to continue to try and establish itself as a highly influential global agency. So the MHRA, from the 1st of January, issued a whole slew of guidance, and they're still adding to them and updating them. So you can see them there under headings of clinical trials, devices, importing and exporting, IT systems, legislation, licensing, pharmacovigilance, and pediatrics. So I can't go through them all here, but I will pick out some of the headlines, so to speak. One of the concepts that's there is this idea of approved countries. And it's approved countries for importation of medicines under wholesale distribution authorization, batch testing of medicines, and the manufacture of APIs. The approved countries always includes all of the European Economic Area countries. So that's all of the 27 EU countries, plus Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. For batch testing, it's all the countries with existing MRAs within the EU is also added to that. providing that the product is in the scope of the MRA. And for API import, we're following all the countries, allowing all the countries on the Commission's whitelist to import into the UK without the need for written confirmations. So it's kind of a standstill provision. As I said previously, Northern Ireland effectively remains in the European Union. So most of the changes I'm going to talk about only apply to Great Britain, that is Scotland, Wales and England. It also means that at present, exports from Great Britain into Northern Ireland will effectively be exports into the European Union. That provision won't come into place at the moment until the 1st of January 2022. So from that point on, product going from Great Britain into Northern Ireland would need retesting on importation and re-QP certification. The UK government has asked the European Union to extend that deadline by another year until the 1st of January 2023, but the European Union has not responded positively to that request as yet. The UK will continue to issue manufacturing import authorisations for both commercial products and investigational products. They'll issue wholesale distribution authorisations and manufacturing specials authorisations, so that's no change. Those licenses have always been issued nationally. The UK will still require API importers and brokers to register with them, and again, that's no change. The UDRA GMP databases had a bit of a glitch. Obviously, the UK MHRA will no longer be adding data from the 1st of January 2021. And what the EMA intended to do was split the UK into UK, i.e. meaning just Great Britain, and UK brackets Northern Ireland, which is what you can see if you do look on their database at the moment. Unfortunately, that split seems to have gone wrong, and some of the data seems to have got lost. We've had reports of people looking for information on there from the UK, and it's disappeared. I don't think that was intentional. I think it's more cock-up rather than conspiracy, and the EMA is trying to put it right, but obviously big databases are a problem and challenging. The UK authorisations and GMP certificates will be published on a new MHRA GMDP database from the 1st of January 2021. Originally, the MHRA hadn't intended retrospectively loading data from the UDRA GMP database into the MHRA GMDP database. However, because of the issues that have occurred with the UDRA GMP database and UK data apparently disappearing, they are now planning to do a retrospective loading, and that is scheduled to take place on the 6th and 7th of February 2021. Obviously, the MHRA will issue GB and UK marketing authorisations. Centrally authorised products that were approved on the day we left, on the 1st of January this year, will automatically qualify for GB licenses. The marketing authorisation can opt out, but they've only had until the 21st of January. So they only had 3 weeks. And if they opt out, obviously then they cannot market their products in Great Britain. I don't imagine too many will opt out. So assuming the CAP holder will automatically get a GB marketing authorisation, that marketing authorisation holder will then have 1 year from the 1st of January 2021 to provide the MHRA with the baseline data for those converted MAs. However, if you wish to submit a variation, then they will require the baseline data to submit it, or maybe will accept a basic baseline data set in 2021. So again, if you need to make a substantive variation, you're probably going to need to submit the baseline data set. The MHRA need that baseline data set in order to assess the impact of any variation, obviously. So the MHRA will require the following: a covering letter identifying the filing as a CAP grandfathering submission, a single ECTD initiating sequence for the converted EU MA. If the product dossier refers to a site master file, then the marketing authorisation holder must ask the active supplier to submit that to the MHRA. a completed electronic application form for each converted EU MA, a summary of all the historical regulatory activity. Now, if this is already in the ECT format, it's fairly easy, but if it's not, that might be more difficult. Information as to whether or not converted product is on the market at the time of notification, the EU summary of product characteristics, and the approved pack labels and patient leaflets. So quite a lot of information that will have to be submitted where you've had a CAP automatically converted to a GB MA. Existing MRP and DCP MAs will already have a UK MA because they're all issued a result in national licenses. But if the UK MA is held by an EU legal entity, then it will need to be transferred to a UK legal entity. And you've got a couple of years to do that. The marketing authorisation holder should be established in the UK by the 1st of January 2023. The MHRA will require a contact person by the 1st of February 2021. So you've got just 1 month. And if the MHRA is not established in the UK, so you've got to have a UK contact person. Change of ownership to be submitted to MHRA to change an EU MAH to a UK MAH for GB and UK MAs. There's new application processes the MHRA has introduced. You can use the existing, pre-existing national process to 10-day UK procedure, but there are 3 new procedures being introduced: an accelerated 150-day assessment, a rolling review for active substances and biosubstances, and for 2 years, GB will adopt decisions taken by the European Commission on approval of new marketing authorisation. So if there was a marketing authorisation application going through the European process, that should be completed by the end of 2 years, and the UK will adopt decisions taken by the European Commission. Batch testing. Batch testing at present for product from the EU coming into Great Britain will not be required, but they changed that during January because they added a requirement that will only hold for 2 years. So that only holds until the 1st of January 2023. Presumably that is trying to put some pressure on the Europeans to agree an MRA with the UK, in which case it becomes a moot point. But if not, now this places companies in the UK, or in Great Britain, sorry, because it doesn't apply to Northern Ireland, in a difficult position. Obviously, retesting on importation is not a quick fix. You may need to transfer tech transfer methods. You may need to find labs with the capability for capacity for performing these assays, and getting all of that set up is not a cheap and simple process. So at the moment, we do not know whether or not it looks that there is a strong possibility, I would say, that from the 1st of January 2023, product coming from the European Economic Area into the UK will need retesting on importation. But the problem for companies is that they could invest a lot of time, effort, and money in setting up the capability to retest on importation into the UK, only at the 11th hour for an MRA to be agreed, and then that's not required. So I don't know, I can't offer any advice. At the moment, I heard nothing. It all comes down to how likely are we to get an MRA with the EU. Opinion seems to be divided, but a lot of people close to government that I've spoken to think it's unlikely, not that the UK would agree to it, but that the European Union would agree to it. The UK will accept batch testing by MRA countries, providing the products in the scope of the MRA. So, QP certification. Obviously, the role of the QP is already in EU law, and the UK is going to retain the role in EU law. The QP for product imported from the European Economic Area can reside in the European Economic Area. So the product from the EEA does not need a UK QP certification, which is not the same as product going the other way. Product coming from GB into the EU does require an EU QP. The UK is not requiring the reverse at this time. QPs will no longer be able to move between the UK and the EU. So I'm presuming that QPs from the UK already based in the EU could continue, but again, that might vary from member state to member state. The MHRA has confirmed that EU QPs can continue to come to the UK to act as QPs, and the MHRA will conduct their usual initial assessment of suitability and knowledge of UK law, which they already do for anybody trying to name a European QP on a UK or GB manufacturing import authorization. So importing, if a wholesaler is accepting product QP certified within the European Economic Area, then they need to have a system in operation by the 1st of January 2021 for checking that the medicines from the EEA have actually been QP certified. It's allowed to import it, but you need a process for making sure. They have to notify the MHRA by the 30th of June 2021 that they are importing from the European Economic Area. And I believe you have to do that by submitting a WDA variation. The MHRA will update their wholesale dealer importation. Then there's going to be this system for checking that the QP certification has actually occurred in the European Economic Area. Eventually, that's going to be the responsibility of a person called the Responsible Person for Import, the RPI. That role is not established until the 1st of January 2023, and by the 1st of January 2023, the wholesale distribution authorization holder will have to nominate a person to be the RPI. Now, there are provisions for what you need to be to enable you to be an RPI. They have very similar duties to the RP, plus they need to ensure an adequate quality system is in place to check the product has been QP certified in the European Economic Area. One RPI can be responsible for several sites within the same company. It's not unusual within a big wholesale dealer organization for that to occur. The MHRA will establish an RPI register, and to be an RPI, in order to be eligible to be nominated to the MHRA as an RPI, you need to be a member of a professional body with a published code of conduct, hold a formal qualification in pharmacy, chemistry, medicine, biology, or a related life science, or, quote, an equivalent qualification. Sounds a bit like a QP, doesn't it? And have 2 years experience as an RP or equivalent. So what is this equivalent qualification? The equivalent qualification acceptable include level 5 qualifications from the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, a lead quality management system lead auditor or pharmaceutical GMP lead auditor qualification issued by the Chartered Quality Institute, IRCA, within the Chartered Quality Institute, the International Register of Certified Auditors, or other qualifications may also be acceptable and check with the MHRA. So I think this is going to be a difficulty for the distribution industry in that many RPs would struggle at the moment to meet those requirements, but we'll have to see how it plays out over the next 2 years. MRAs, the UK obviously will no longer be covered by EU agreements and needs its own bilateral agreements. So as of the beginning of this year, the UK had already got MRAs with Australia, New Zealand and the USA. They've got trade agreements with Israel and Switzerland. We've got what's called a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Japan. And Canada had agreed that the EU MRA provisions to the UK to continue while trade talks go on. So it basically means it's standstill. All of the MRAs we've been used to having with the EU continue to apply, but they are now UK specific bilateral MRAs. So in actual fact, nothing has changed. The only one that potentially could change still is the Canada one if those negotiations don't go well. But I fully expect that they will. API imports, the UK will continue to accept importation of active substances into the UK without a written confirmation from the list of countries as currently. So that will be the EU, European Economic Area countries, plus all the countries on the Commission whitelist. Parallel import, UK has decided to continue parallel trading. The UK will unilaterally align to the EU EEA exhaustion regime from Brexit Day, so from the 1st of January 2021. Longer term options will be reviewed, but clearly the UK wants to keep the cost of medicines down. So the UK will convert all currently approved parallel distribution authorisation of centrally authorised products into UK parallel import licenses. For veterinary medicines, the VMD is going to give itself, again, 2 years to accept the EU as a location for MA holders, QPs, QC testing and QP certification. From the 1st of January, adverse events, though, will need to be reported to the VMD. For centrally authorised product conversion, existing marketing authorisation for centrally authorised products will need to be converted to GB, veterinary medicines authorisations. It will occur automatically in exactly the same way as it does for human ones. And you'll need to send the following to the VMD by the 30th of June. So a complete memorandum document using the appropriate template for pharmaceutical products only, the finished product and active substance specification, and a flow chart of the final manufacturing process. The MAH of converted products will need to send the following to the VMD within 2 years. Again, the full baseline data, so they've given you an extra year for over human products, and a variation to update the packaging to include the new veterinary medicine number and the marketing authorisation holder, location, name and distributor details. So you've got 2 years to do that bit. The changes for veterinary medicines, I say, are very similar to those for human medicines. And again, so parallel importing is still allowed, adverse events need to go. So in summary, veterinary medicines are some of the deadline dates are a little bit different, but the process is pretty much the same. One of the things we had hoped to get but didn't get was mutual recognition of official control laboratory batch release. So the UK official control laboratory is NIBSC, part of the MHRA, and so those products coming into the UK will need UK certification is required for immunological products or products derived from human blood or plasma. So it's being required, I believe, for COVID vaccines. So NIBSC will provide certification for products to be marketed in the UK. NIBSC will no longer be the EU official control laboratory for batch release, and the UK will require its own testing by NIBSC. If you've got an EU certificate issued up to the 31st of December, then that will be accepted. In Northern Ireland, EU official control laboratory batch certificates will continue to be accepted. This slide is just designed to be a summary of everything we've covered so far in one handy slide. So it is just a restatement of everything that we have heard so far. So to summarise, the UK is now fully a third country, but Northern Ireland effectively remains in the EU. The MHRA is now a standalone agency. They will aim to be a global opinion leader, and they aim for the UK to be an optimum country for efficient application processes, and they did demonstrate that with the very early approval of the COVID vaccines, much quicker than the European Union. I think that was deliberate indeed, but they've achieved that by working in parallel with the companies as they were developing. They were part of the discussions, and I think that will continue, which I think is a good thing. As I said at the start of this webinar, the position is constantly changing, and so you will have to keep up to date with this because that's just the nature of it, and it's highly political. One way you can do that is to download NSF's free app. You look for the NSF Pharma app on either the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. It works on Apple and Google devices. It works both on mobile phones and on tablets. And one of the things that we provide there is a what's new service. So as things change, as things evolve, we will post on there the updates, and you can use that as a way of keeping up to date with changes. The other way is we have an annual subscription service which is delivered remotely using blended learning, so recorded sessions on our learning management system, followed by live question and answer sessions a few weeks after each of the recorded sessions. And there is a schedule throughout the year, and it's a 12-month rolling subscription that you can obtain. So the full update was published, first one in February, and there is the schedule for the remainder of the year. So please keep up to date with us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much. So that concludes this webinar. I have just got time for a couple of questions. The first one, and it's one I get asked a lot, is why have we not got an MRA with the European Union, the UK? We've effectively had one for the previous 47 years when we were members of the European Union. Why could that simply not continue? I'm afraid I can give you the answer to that question in one word. It's politics. The European Union is scared of what they call contagion. In other words, if leaving the European Union looks like a good idea, other countries may choose to follow the same path. And so it's in the Commission's interest to make leaving the EU to be as bad an idea as possible. In other words, the consequences to be as dire as possible. And for that reason, and there has been quite a lot of bad blood between the UK negotiators and the EU over the whole process of negotiating a deal, even though the deal is rather thin. And so my view is that politics will stand in the way of us getting a mutual recognition agreement for many years to come. I would be delighted to be proved wrong and tomorrow to hear that we'd signed a deal, but I personally do not think that's going to happen anytime soon. The second question is, will UK QPs still be able to act as QPs in the EU? And the answer is always, it depends. Up until the time we left, it is in theory possible, if you have acted as a QP on a manufacturing import authorization anywhere in the EU, to then carry that as a right of eligibility to other countries, and therefore UK QPs, while we were in the EU, could have automatically, if you'd be seen to have the right to act as QPs in other EU countries. That goes away. The UK QPs will no longer be seen as QPs by the rest of the EU because our manufacturing import authorizations will not be seen as EU manufacturing import authorizations, and therefore the QPs will not be recognized as QPs, which is why product flowing from Great Britain into the EU is now required to be re-QP'd. However, there would be nothing to prevent a UK QP traveling to another country and seeking to act as a QP through the normal process within that country. So I don't know, if somebody wanted to go to the Netherlands, for instance, from Great Britain, and then go through the normal Dutch process for becoming a QP in the Netherlands, there's nothing to stop you doing that. But it does mean you've lost that automatic right to act as a QP in the EU after having been a QP in the UK. The reverse is not true. The MHRA have said they will continue to assess QPs seeking to come to the UK. They will look obviously at their previous experience, but they'll also, as they always have done, look at their English language ability and their understanding of UK law. So I'm afraid that is a right that UK QPs have lost as a result of the UK leaving the European Union. So that's it. Thank you for your attention, and you can please, if you've got any questions, contact us at NSF. We'd be delighted to hear from you.